These boots are made for walking, and that's just what they'll do. One of these days these boots are gonna walk all over
The National
you.
Organization for Women, from Mystique to Mainstream. The National Organization for Women was founded in 1966 by writer Betty Friedan. The organization led a series of mass actions and protests that influenced government decisions and gained support from feminists across the nation in the fight for women's rights and liberation.
The creation of and movement started by the National Organization for Women altered the ideals of prior generations by bringing women into mainstream American society and paved the way for women to encounter change.
The push for gender equality in America dates back to pre-revolutionary times. However, one of the primary achievements for feminists was during the first wave feminist movement, in which women pushed relentlessly for the right to vote. They gained this right through the passing of the 19th Amendment in 1920. After being enfranchised, women continued to push for equality in other aspects of life, such as employment and education. However, the economic difficulties in the United States during the 1930s led to a plateau in the movement. Jobs during the Great Depression were often reserved for men, and women returned to the home. At the start of World War II, women once again began to enter the workforce.
All the day long, whether rain or shine, she's a part of the assembly line. She's making history, working for victory. Rosie, the riveter, keeps a sharp lookout for sabotage. Sitting up there on the fuselage, that little frill can do more than a male can do.
Females worked jobs that were typically reserved for males. They often sought jobs in manufacturing or defense industries. The quantity of women in the workforce rose from 25% at the beginning of the war to 36% at the war's end. After the war, female industrial workers were often laid off from their jobs, and these jobs were transferred to men. Positions opened up for women in traditional women's jobs such as secretaries and shopkeepers. The post-World War II baby boom also contributed to the decline of women in the workforce because many women voluntarily quit their jobs to start families and raise their children at home.
And so there were women who were working during the war period because so many men were soldiers and they left. And so they had to take up the slack, and they worked in jobs. But then when they came home, they either quit to be with their husband and to start a family, or some of them were forced out of their job.
After World War II, women were commonly portrayed in the media as happy housewives and mothers, and this idea became cherished among women.
You know how old I was when I got married? 17. My mother almost had a fit. "You're just a baby," she said. Well, anyway, a year later, I had a real baby. This baby. I was scared stiff. Not just because I'd never had a baby before, but I had to prove something to my mother and my mother-in-law. I was going to be the world's best mother in lots of little ways.
However, the image of such a happy housewife was often false. In 1963, Betty Friedan published her book titled The Feminine Mystique, in which Friedan, a housewife, voiced the dissatisfaction she had with her life. Friedan's book was widely circulated, especially among housewives feeling a common emptiness.
The feminine mystique has made us feel it's unfeminine to use our rights, to really want equality, to want to take part in the decisions of the world.
Friedan addressed the need for change among women. In her book, she wrote, "We can no longer ignore that voice within women that says, 'I want something more than my husband and my children and my home.'"
But among women, there was this idea that, is this all that there is? Okay, so I have a nice house, and I have a nice family, and I have, all these great appliances that have come out with technology. But, is this all that I have? I'm really kind of shut out of educational opportunities. I'm really kind of shut out of the workforce. And so that's where that came from, I think.
In 1964, President Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act, which included Title VII. Title VII prohibited employers from discriminating against their employees or potential employees on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission was created with the purpose of enforcing the Civil Rights Act. However, the commission failed to enforce the ban on sex discrimination. In 1966, the Third National Conference of Commissions on the Status of Women was held in Washington, D.C. The topic of this conference was centered around the issue of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission's failure to properly enforce the law regarding sex discrimination in the workplace. Betty Friedan attended the conference initially as only a writer and observer, but ultimately met with other attendees who also sought to take immediate action regarding the discrimination against women. That day, Friedan met with a group of 28 others, and together they planned the creation of the National Organization for Women. Changes that the National Organization for Women sought to make was to end discrimination in employment, commonly seen in sex-segregated help-wanted advertisements. The group protested nationwide, demanding change from prominent advertisers. Within 1 year, a plethora of newspapers, including the New York Times, stopped publishing sex-segregated help-wanted ads. The National Organization for Women continued to lobby for changes in the workplace while taking on other challenges in granting women equal opportunities. One of the group's core beliefs was gender equality in education. In early 1972, the National Organization for Women led a national campaign to pass a law guaranteeing females equal educational opportunities. In June, Congress passed the Education Amendments of 1972, which includes Title IX. Title IX prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex in any federally funded education program or activity.
But Title IX really has opened the world to women in ways that was inconceivable before, just to have all kinds of educational opportunities.
I feel the earth move under my feet. I feel the sky tumbling down. I feel my heart start to tremble.
One of the major issues taken up by the National Organization for Women was for the passing of the Equal Rights Amendment, which stated that equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. After a series of intense campaigns and protests led by the National Organization for Women, the Equal Rights Amendment was passed by both the Senate and House of Representatives. On March 22, 1972, the amendment was sent to the states for ratification. By 1977, 35 out of the necessary 38 states ratified the amendment. However, the motion was eventually defeated when no more states ratified the amendment, and thus it did not meet the ratification requirement.
While we lost the big fight, we did gain a lot of incremental changes in the laws.
Despite the defeat of the amendment, the movement led by the National Organization for Women rallied support and awareness nationwide regarding the fight for women's equality. The National Organization for Women brought females from the unspoken dissatisfaction of home life to successfully and publicly demanding change.